Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GANs processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
Good evening. If you need such a document, there is a group set up under the name or banner of KFCO2, One Nation Challenge Team, which is drawing up such a document. It's part of the KF program and is handled by Jim and Lisa. You can join that group and get a lot of documents from them. Raphael is part of that group too. So if you need any help, they are setting this thing up, or they're supposed to set up documents for this to give you some support.
Thank you for that, Mr. Keshe.
If you want, I can add you into that group.
Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Just let me, where do I find you?
Good day, Mr. Keshe. I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much for being here. And I would really like to, on this American birthday, if I was wondering how things are presenting themselves for the future.
Can I just ask, sorry about that, I don't have you on my list, I don't know why, but I asked Ella to add you to this group, the KFCO2 One Nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Alex.
No problem at all. As this is the 4th of July, it's a very important day in the United States, a day of reflection. And I was just wondering if we have a vision of the future that you might be able to comment on.
You want to look into the crystal ball, you mean?
Yeah, I want to stand on someone's shoulders.
You know, as many people do not know or might know, or historically, your 4th of July celebration, actually the agreement for freedom, or what do you call it, the what we call restricted freedom, was done with the help of the Russians in the city of Ghent in Belgium. The final draft of the 4th of July, what you call now. And if you read the details of this, British are still the owner of United States. They have given you the freedom of election, but you're still part of the British colony. Russians could not get United States off their hand or give them the freedom. The blacks are free. They've been given the freedom. But the white Americans under the, what you call it, the 4th of July Constitution, are still colony of United Kingdom. You still have the Queen as head of your nation. You still have presidential, you still have everything else, but in the background, in the agreement, British never gave the freedom to the Americans. And you see this in a lot of cases. So when you speak about what you see in the future, 4th of July, I look at it, you'll be better negotiate with Buckingham Palace than the White House, if you understand what I mean. You see good things. You see a lot of good things. And there's a piece of information which maybe some of you who live around Buckingham Palace might be interested to know. If you go towards the city in London, there is a Temple of Mitra right in the center of London. And you can actually go to a Temple of Mitra. Is under the building known as a Bloomberg building. You can go and see the Roman soldiers brought it, made a temple. This is one of many temples around London which are hidden. So Mithraism has even been practiced in England. And part of the British monarchy rules, and then with the Romans, it still carries part of the teaching and the work of the Romans when they brought it to England. This is about 7-10 meters below the ground. It's been carved out and everything is there. You can go and see it. What we see, you ask me the future, we see the negotiations of peace starting, and we see a conclusion to a lot of works towards the science and technology. We enter peace in that way. Part of our negotiation with the Americans is Iranian technology and knowledge in exchange for peace, but peace will be on the international level, not on the one nation between Iran and US. And we see the framework of it. And then by 2022, we'll see a lot of changes. Because the motto or logo which Biden came into power was new technology, new sciences. And we give that as a gift in exchange for a peace. But in a way, we do not much care. We exchange the technologies for them to find peace with themselves. And you will see in the opening of the space technology, the true way in the coming weeks. Before end of this year, we will see a change, and there is no stamina for wars anymore, and we cannot pull. And in so many ways, too many people have received too many vaccines to worry about too many things than wars at the moment. But in general, from where we see a beginning of the world peace talks and actions. We might see a bit rough times, but in general, peace negotiations will start shortly in a beautiful way. But with it will come the opening of the space technology. The biggest problem, some of this microphone is open. The biggest problem for most of the nations is how to find a way to be working towards the betterment of the citizens and how we can sell this. And this is the biggest problem. And we will see a huge resistance, especially from Western Europe and US, in allowing the new technology, even though they wanted to allow it to happen. We'll see a change of direction with a new leader of Germany coming to power in the next couple of months, and consequently a lot of changes in European decision making. And it will bring us a lot of horrible times in trying to get the Europeans and the Americans accepting the new technology, especially the new space technology, as will allow many third world nation, Africans and the rest, to have access, immediate access to the Western world. Traveling from different part of the world within minutes into anywhere they like. Even though they want the new technology, on the other hand, they don't want the new technology because borders become meaningless and all the effort they made and all the injustices will go into balance box. Trump wanted to build a wall. Now the Mexicans don't need America to jump into Canada. It just takes them a minute. They're over US into Canada. If you are in, I mean, your report release or this program is coming out of North America and Canada. If you're now going to the airports of Toronto and the rest of the airports around Canada, you see nothing but plane loads of Mexicans coming in for 3 months, 6 months slavery work, for harvesting, but the money they get paid, feed them for next 8 months, 10 months till the next time. And this will stop. In a way, they don't need permission to take. They'll be there to take. This is one of the biggest problems for Western world in applying the new technology, and one of the resistance we see with it. That high-speed travels without control. Now we have borders. Now we have airports. In next 12 months, if we get our way, and we will do it through the immediate space technology, it's like the olden days. You had the castles with the water around it, nobody could go in. When the cannon came in and when the plane came in, castles became useless. Now with the new space technology and traveling without limitation, borders will go. There are the castles which are falling down. And this will be a biggest dilemma in next few months and years for the new government. Accepting the new technology, how do we control the population movement? And secondly, as we just heard, we don't want the injection, we send it to Africa. The Africans they can come and get it in Denmark and Norway themselves. They don't need you to send it. This is the biggest problem we will see. Colonization coming to an end, but people who've been colonized wanting what they gave over centuries back to themselves. And this is the biggest resistance we've seen from Western world about Keshe Foundation, because we explained this in deep, in thorough way. Now is faced with it. and they will come very soon. Definition of the borders and how we keep everyone fed and everyone looked after. As I said, the castle of borders has gone with a new technology. They want a new technology to create new jobs, but the outcome of new technology is no borders, because you can travel anywhere, work anywhere, and go home within minutes. It was hidden, or very nicely hidden, in the Iranian report of 10th of February internally. Travel from Earth to Moon by the Iranian Space Agency within 1 minute. Then you can see what it is. This is what is on the card. And our biggest problem with peace negotiation will be to get the Americans and the Europeans to understand the game is over. Because if we produce in China or India or Iran, the technology will be spread around the world. I said before, to Obama's administration, Biden being the second man in charge, will have people in front of the White House from any corner of Africa, more than you have inside Washington. The technological breakthrough is huge. If you go back about 6 months ago, more than 6 months ago, I announced that Iran will reach 92% enrichment. And the Americans said, dream. Now officially in the meetings we have announced, we have 60% enrichment, we can reach as much as we like. So we told the Americans, we get 92% enrichment, it didn't come, we have it. But what's the purpose of this enrichment is something which is negotiable on the tables. It's not for nuclear weapon. It will be for the most advanced space technologies man ever seen. You're now preparing for power, we are preparing for space. And this will shock the world in what how advanced Iran is in these technologies.
And if I could add, if people want to see a crystal ball, they can go back to the 331 Knowledge Seekers Workshop. And an Iranian woman, I think in the question and answer session, asked Mr. Keshe's future vision, and he gave about a 10-minute overview. And you'll find that in the 331st Knowledge Seekers Workshop.
Our biggest problem in the coming weeks is not so much nuclear technology of Iran, is what we call advanced technology of Iran. That makes literally nations and borders and all these meaningless. As I said, we were happy we could hide inside the castles. Now we are happy we can put soldiers and hide behind the definition of nation lines and castles. Now, in the next few months, these become meaningless. Mankind will be forced to peace through the development of new technology. But that peace means to put back, give back a lot to places where we robbed for centuries. No one has been robbed more than the Americans. One day, Americans, today is your freedom day, but no one has been robbed more than you lot by the British. While you thought you were robbing, you got robbed. All your soldiers who die in the front line from Vietnam to Iraq and the rest, the oil freeze collected in Iraq goes to the bank of BP. The gold collected in Iraq goes to Buckingham Palace, and Americans lying in the front line in different part of Iraq, but Basra, the oil center, stays solid in the hand of British. They export whatever they like. They don't pay anything to Iraqis, they die of hunger, but the British sell. And this has been what we said many times before. You're still servants to the British monarchy. You don't have a freedom. You haven't been given that freedom. That's why British use America as a moving soldier base wherever they want. Because decisions are made in London. The soldiers move by it. Even if you can look at the Second World War, British paid the Americans for the war, but in the back, all the money was transferred back to England. And the clear way, you lost so many soldiers, you look how many British lost, you look where your soldiers are, all the danger zones, British only in the port of Basra, where all 99% of Iraq oil is exported. And no one has any idea of how much is exported. Because British owned they took during the Iraq war, they took control of Basra. And that was a whole plan. So you understand. And all this will come to an end. It won't be an end. It's a good time. A lot of things will change, but Western world will oppose the new technology more than anybody else, because the new technology will bring in or bring down their borders and barriers. And borders and barriers is where they sold arms, where they keep the conflicts going, where they keep the animosities and everything else against others, that they could sell arms. Now they can't sell arms. It's not that it's going to be a beautiful time for technologies like Keshe. The Western world will oppose it, as you've seen up to now. Because they know Mexico City, Toronto will be 2 minutes. And Johannesburg from Washington, less than a few minutes.
So investing in sightseeing companies is not a good idea.
Investing in what?
Investing in sightseeing companies, have a tour.
Tourism? Oh, now everybody's a tourist. I think the best place is to sell Moon and Mars and Jupiter, if you can say holiday destination.
Yeah, but if they ask you, did you want a window seat? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. You can have 2 window seats.
You're not going to see anything. It'll be instantaneous. It'll be a blur.
Yes, and some of us do see this as the Queen has knighted even our former presidents, Secretary of Defense, and others. And one of the reasons you get knighted is for service to the crown. And we also know the ownership of the Federal Reserve, the Class A stock, is mostly with the crown. So not all of us are unaware, but the majority, I would say, is.
You know an old say, they say, or as British say, there'll be 5 queen left in the world. You know that?
I haven't heard that one.
4 in a pack of cards and 1 the Queen of England. you are, it was the Russians through the Tsar, because they were the cousins of the British royal family. When they drew up the contract, they drew it up from the point of British interest or family interest, that you have your 4th of July. And part of it says that it is done, that the British stay, that you are given the freedom to choose your president and collect taxes, but not the ruler of your nation.
Yes, I know that the Tsars helped form the United States as they threatened the British with making war in Europe if they didn't allow the formation of this country. I'm a little bit familiar with those stories.
Yeah, because he was drawn up in the city of Kent. That's why Kent is very famous. That's where your freedom contract was drawn between the, what do you call, Federation and the others and the British. There's a good saying, you never leave a piece of meat for a cat to look after you.
That's a good one.
I think Benjamin Franklin was also part of that negotiation.
There is a building you can go to where the negotiation has been done. Was agreed. Anyway, happy 4th of July. You have a few more hours of it left, enjoy it. And maybe next July, 4th of July will be very different than this time.
Good evening. Sorry, this is Keshe. I'm auditing. Just something to add on. Americans, British, and most of the Western world, they really need to look into something called the straw man. You will see you're not free, and untold amounts of derivative has been on the stock market, has been exchanged on the flesh of pound of flesh for a pound of gold. Something to do with the capital letters, and they created another clone out of you and they trade you on the stock market. So you're being securitized. Very deep information. Next week, I'll send the link. You can get information about Strowman. Serious stuff. Sorry.
Yes, I agree. We've been used as a big dumb giant in the employ of the British.
Well, Mark, the British have been used in the same employ.
Oh, they've run the world for about 600 years, I think, the last 600 years, ever since the Black Plague in Europe and so on. They controlled all the shipping for centuries.
No, I'm talking about the common man.
The common man, yeah.
Mr. Keshe, good evening. How many names you will have for this virus? How much more?
Don't know. Now we run out of nations. Now we're going into alpha, beta, delta. I think you have another, how many alphabet do you have in the Greek alphabet?
What about phi and gamma?
Now we are in delta. And suddenly out of nowhere, all the presidents speak about the delta. We hear the German chancellor. And the other world leaders talking about suddenly out of nowhere this week, they all speak about that. It's just that they've been given a hymn sheet to read from and they all read the same. And I think August, it must be a gamma one.
I think they have a common denominator between them.
I keep out of this discussion because we know the answer, we know what it is.
Mr. Keshe, may I change the subject? I have a question about the universal community. The proliferation of the, what do you call it? Mutual self-destruction, mutually assured self-destruction. The prevention of that, it's my understanding that the universal community is the governing body over that. And
I do not know what you're talking about.
what I'm talking about is that the ethos of the universe dictates the flow of the plasma energy. And so the stopping of the transmission of the plasma energy is in conjunction with those who violate the ethos of the universe. In other words, the energy flows with the ethos of the universe.
No one can, or the way it works, no one can block anyone. It's your own conduct which blocks you from receiving. Then the totality of the behavior of the soul of this planet with its created things which blocks the man. But again, that blockage, as you call it, is in a physical matter state, not on the state of the soul of the man. We haven't seen a traffic jam of souls at the boundaries of the Earth atmosphere. Waiting to be let out.
Yeah, so that.
So this is the state of mind. I wrote something for Universal Council today. I hope they don't mind me reading it, but it was a question put by, I think, Marie. If I find it. There was a question, in a way, the answer to it, with the permission from Universal Council. In the universe, we are not stuck, as we are in the nursery of Earth to physical condition. As on Earth, some decide to have yellow flowers, and some red, and some be trees, and some be shrubs. But in fact, those who elevate to become a soul free from physicality become the scent of these, and even in essence of a scent, the whole attribute of the full plant exists. So if one day man educates himself enough, he will understand that from the scent of a flower, he can grow the flower. Now, what becomes of the physicality? Would it be in the scent? The fault and the thorn, the smell and the beauty, all are part of that scent, as it makes all its impression on our soul once it touches our soul. Now, does the scent carry physicality of the plant, the tree and the shrub, or on our soul? Or do we feel its feeling and shape through our memory of it in the universe. In a way, we will, when we get educated, the way we smell the flowers from a distance, one of the essence of we smell the smell of the planets and universes and galaxies. All have their own smell. And can we, with the smell of them, create the structure of them, replicate? And then this brings another position that if the, what we call the scent of a plant can stretch hundreds of kilometers, what would be the scent of the universe? And if one educated enough to be able to use the scent to create the plant just by the smell, then is life, the way we see it on this planet, created out of the scent of somewhere else in the universe, which could convert his scent to physicality of planet Earth with all his plants and animals? Are we brought here as a scent of, or were we created here as totality to become the scent of other planets in the universe? We were standing in the new exhibition hall a couple of days ago, and I said to a knowledge seeker, "You are planting two systems across the bridge, the gap in between, where we transfer to show for the first time entity from one machine to the other across the bridge, or across the gap. And many of these will be done as they're trying to transfer atoms across. We transfer the energy of the soul, and the physicality will take shape across as it needs." And with the new systems which are getting developed in our research centers, we will show this up in a short time. Then we have to understand, do we carry the scent of a person, or do we carry the soul of the person? And would it create this, the physicality of the person? And then this goes back again to what we called the virgin birth. In the recent teaching, I deliberately refer to that I can make a stone to cry, if you remember. If you go the true essence of the birth of Mitra, Mitra was given birth in a cave from a stone, in a way from the essence of the creation of universe. And then in Christianity became the virgin birth. Historically, it's believed that Mitra came out of a stone. And then we see many religious followings is the caves, which exactly replicates the story of Mitra and the virgin birth and everything else we have seen. But this will be answered in new technology development in the coming time.
Mm. I had a couple of questions, or unless you're not finished.
Mark, before you ask those questions, I'd like to thank everybody here from the North American Corona team and the North American International Corona team. I want to thank everybody for allowing us to present today. What a wonderful meeting. I'm going to sign off, and Mark, I'm going to let you carry on. Thank you so much, Mr. Keshe, for being here. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Yes, it's approaching midnight in Europe. But one of my questions I've been thinking about, or a couple of questions I've been thinking about, is when you said Jesus walked off the cross, did he embed his soul in another individual? Did you literally mean walking off the cross? And then when you say you've been walking on this planet for thousands of years, you leave one city as an old man and you appear as a child in another city. Does that mean you had to go through the birth process, or did you embed your soul into a child and develop that way? Or am I missing the entire point?
I leave that to be answered in the future.
Okay.
But in so many ways, I've answered that question very recently to someone. Any other question?
I do have a question. Good evening, Mr. Keshe. It's evening here. I'm checking on what is going to happen to wildlife and trees and so on if you can go pretty well anywhere in a minute. Is there going to be any protection for our vertical people and the mammals?
The wildlife was doing perfect before man gets to it. And I think when the man leaves this planet, the wildlife will go back to its perfection and its evolution.
I'm thinking in terms of where I am now. If let's just say that very few people will worry about any of the growth, and they will chop and burn everything. So I'm just curious as to whether, if we have any rules or some way of protecting the growth.
This planet can feed many, many times the present number of human beings. It's not short of land, it's not short of food. It's the learning of how to process and use and distribute and in a way place people. One of the biggest problems with the human race and colonization of this planet has been water resources. We see lives always stuck to the rivers and lakes and waterways. And with a new technology, which hopefully will take over, we can produce water anywhere. Though, so the centralization, the way we see it, will go out of hand. Once we move water resources away from cities where we can produce, by understanding of new technology, water at any point, anywhere on this planet, over time, the distribution of what we call population will change. Because we've seen it with Corona, we don't need it to be in offices, to be in buildings to work. Secondly, with the opening of the space, the depletion on the population on this planet will take a huge number of people out of the what we call life living on this planet. We will colonize faster than we colonize the United States. And the biggest problem will be, this is part of our negotiations in coming time, limitation on how we can look after the needy, the old, and the young. during this transition time coming up in the next 20 to 50 years. The scientists will go to space, the educated will go to space, the young will go to space. And we will have the same problem as Japan has today. Large old population we don't want to look after. The governments and international programs will be restriction on how we go. So a lot of things which we have destroyed will go back to nature. A lot of it, because we have no need for it, and secondly, we don't have the population for it. This is something we have already spoken about. Once we go from jet propulsion into Magra positioning, this planet will deplete population by about 50% in less than 10 years. 80% will never return.
So that means they don't find it very beautiful here.
Now they get too busy with the universe.
Yeah, I guess so. Thank you for that.
They get too busy. We see this I was reading an article, I don't know where it came from, that Japan has so many millions of houses empty in the villages and rural areas that people have left and are not going back. China has around 50, 60 million houses like this. And people just abandon cities and villages. And very soon big cities will be abandoned. A lot of people will find confidence and solace in the new technology. But they'll come as a collective wave of new technologies.
So the change will happen.
We see it to start in the next few weeks. If it takes shape the way we see it, yes. Because we have no choice. We have an ever-growing population. And now one of the ways man found his way to control his population and his people was through wars. And now we can't escalate into wars. Corona is biggest stumbling block. And we're getting a lot of people sitting in their houses and not doing anything. And there has to be a solution. Governments cannot hold anymore. The restriction with Corona is going through the wall, but at the end of it, there has to be a new scientific breakthrough to change things, to bring a new understanding, new technologies that man gets busy with. And then, but this time, in getting busy with, man will find his way out of this planet and we will not come back.
I guess I can see here we need water, and that will be the one focus for everybody.
Where are you at the moment?
In South Africa.
Oh,
Yeah.
Cape Town or Johannesburg?
No, I don't like that's too polluted. No, Durban, and
Durban.
it's polluted, but not as bad. And we have spent over 2 billion rands in bringing water trucks into the rural area in, I think, about less than 10 years. Imagine everybody could have a new house, in-ground water tanks for 2 billion rands.
Yeah, but we got to look at new technologies, but at the same time, collectively, we have to watch that we do not create secondary problems. Then depleting, sorting one problem leads to creation of another problem. This is what's got to be avoided. And I presume our leaders will be wise enough to use it. We have no choice to go into evolution of new technology. We have no choice. We
I
are
think we're
getting
waiting.
pushed to that corner. We propose new structures very soon, extremely soon. And then we'll see how it will take shape. It will take 3 to 5 years to take shape, and then we'll see the next step of it. But as we said, we are still working on the target of 6th of June 2022 for landing on the moon. Our colleagues in Iran would like to talk about a minute. We would like to talk about it now.
To me, that's exciting beyond anything. It's very exciting.
We have committed our nation to it, and we'll carry on.
We're waiting, Mr. Keshe.
We are working on it.
Okay.
We just got to wait for 30 more days of transition, and in August the 4th, 5th, we will lay out our new rules.
Okay, so everything is moving very quickly in my eyes.
It's just the beginning. But generally speaking, it's we're going through a transition time, and we have to see how things take shape. Iran is committed to peace, but through exchange of technology. And my school of thoughts and the Iranian new leadership is the same.
Thank God for that. Thank the Creator for that one.
We'll see how we go.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Mr. Keshe, hi, sorry, it's Kay. Sorry to bother you. Just wanted to find out the fact that you said the elderly people and youngsters perhaps, but in particular elderly people, when the science opens up and people will be traveling out of the planet Earth, and most probably 80% of them wouldn't come back. Would you not envisage that by the time this happens in 10 years' time, the elderly will be self-sufficient in terms of food, because they can use plasma to feed themselves, as well as have enough knowledge to take care of their health? Isn't that what you would envisage?
We envisage a lot of things, but it has to be, there's a lot of problem in these kind of changes and accepting it and being able to do. I explained in a conference some time ago, quite some time ago. The opening of the space technology will bring the same immigration as we saw with America. Some people left home with wealth to become richer. Some people left to find new life. And many people left to live the horrible life they lived. Whatever would have come would not be as bad as what they had. And this is what we see in the new space technology era when it opens up. Many people which stand hunger and pain and whatever will take into space that there might be a better solution in deep space somewhere. Mankind will not change. We'll see the repetition of the same. Even today is the 4th of July. If you look at the right across the United States, it wasn't built by all the richest and wealthiest of the people. Many people even, hid in the ships and anywhere else to get across the water because it would be a better life than what they had. Then we'll see this when transportation to space becomes the way we see it in the next 20, 30 years. Many people, hungry people, people from what we call the worst states of life will take into space, because it cannot be worse than they had here. At least aboard of a ship, they have a food and everything fed to them without them wanting to. There is no hunger. This is how this planet will deplete.
But wouldn't they take their whole families with them? Their elderly parents?
Don't know. I can't. I know I've said this before. Maybe I was in Sierra Leone for election of the president. We were observers and assistant to the new elected government, as we were supporting and what we were there to make sure people we understand the work of our work. And I had to go from the couple of days after election. I was in what you call a Freetown University, and the president asked the chancellor to meet with me before he leaves for Europe, and then we found out we are both on the same plane anyway. And they were trying to rush me through what we call Freetown University to the house of the chancellor. And the professor who was taking me with his car to the house of the chancellor, he said, "Mr. Keshe, it's a traffic jam. I have to take a different route. Please close your eyes and don't tell chancellor I brought you this way." And we went through a shanty town, the most amazing shanty town. And when we got to a part of shanty town, I could hear Indian music. Ding, 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 ding. I thought, what is going on in the middle of Africa? Indian music. On our way, we passed a stand, like a hole in the wall, maybe 1 meter by 2 meter high. And there was an Indian guy opening shop there, and he was so happy to be there. And I said to the professor, you can imagine what condition he's come from India to hear that he's happy with this. That he puts music and he's happy to run a little shop 1 by 2 meter, even that. Mankind will reach that level. We have reached that level. That anything is better than what we have. And when the facilities are there, you don't need to be worried about the food or clothing. And what would you choose? The slums of India, hunger, disease, or being a passenger on a ship that might bring a new generation to a new part? This is what will come. This planet will deplete from population very rapidly. And this is why we try to get the ethos of war and killing out of the man. It's a consequence of development of new technology. Our great-grandfathers went from village to village, maybe from village to town once every 10 years. With the new technology, we go from one country to another half of the planet across as we change our trousers. We are in a true time transition time, but now the present science cannot go any further. We need a breakthrough. We need a new look at the whole science. And our technology is one of the options. And many things connected together makes a new technology, new science.
Mr. Keshe, sorry, in order to make this transition a little bit more comfortable, so to speak, as well as creating a balance and not to disturb those who are, less fortunate, so to speak, they aren't caught up with the science or the knowledge. So could be not those who have learned the knowledge, could we not do what you suggested? Put those microgravity system as a satellite around the orbit and feed the people, so they're not left behind, or they're not starved, as well as have
it'll be a combination of everything. It'll be a combination. The responsibility of nations will not be the way it is like a United Nations. But I call it a Christian club. We hear Germany now has officially requested to be a member of the Security Council, and with Japan and 1 or 2 more nations, Brazil. And when you look at it, without China, the rest is a Christian club. This cannot be. And this is what, on a larger scale, as Giscard d'Estaing said, the ex-president of France, EU is a Christian club. We can't let Turkey in. United Nations is another Christian club. When we create a system very much like Universal Council, that every language and religion actually religion doesn't count, but the language doesn't matter what color you carry, could be a French black or white or blue-eyed, doesn't matter. Then you establish a structure which can be correct, and then these will arrange everything the way it has to be done. These are part of the work of what is to come. It's not going to be easy, but we need a sharp shock treatment. And this is part of it. Some people will be left behind and some people will be carried partially. But in general, it's a good thing.
How can you carry somebody partially?
Very easy. They would like to have a foot in both worlds.
That would be possible? Because I think that would be
Yeah, I'm an old
a
Chinese
solution.
man. Yeah, I'm still an old Chinese man. I still like to live in China. I don't want to leave, but I like to be fed. Put a satellite above me, feed me, and I still live in my own old hut. Why not?
No, I meant going on the space craft.
The limitation of understanding it is limitation of development. If you can be on moon within minutes, or you can be, the first thing which will come to all of us without the shadow of a doubt, very rapidly, do we need a job? Many of you at the moment is shocked to you, but do we need a job? Are there any factories in the universe? Are there any jobs in the universe?
It's an awful mess to clean up here before anybody goes anywhere, I would have thought.
Then we clean it at our own will. Then we do it the way we see fit. It's a big change. We start pushing with this change in the coming weeks. And unless things go totally belly up, there is no choice. Europe is at the point of stagnation, employment around 15%. And there is no war, military equipment are not selling. Nations which had 50–60% of their industrial growth sitting on what we call military hardware and technology is not buying. Nations at war are running out of steam to fight. We don't have soldiers on any position. 2 options left. bomb each other with nuclear bombs, or find a new solution technology and get as many people as you can out of this planet. Do not depopularize, but depopulation through new technology will become an alternative way of life. And all this will coincide by the birth of Mitra. And we'll see.
Thank you.
Mr. Keshe, sorry, I'm stretching a bit. Those who have learned the knowledge or they have advanced to a certain extent where they can fly and leave the planet, before they leave the planet, as their soul has elevated to the level where they can actually take a leap to the corner of space, we could collectively, I'm not going to put myself in there, but those who have achieved to that level, they can collectively make sure that planet Earth is not left in limbo. So take care of all the
there is technically, there is no possibility to leave Earth in the limbo. And there is no possibility to leave people behind. The position is that many of us will choose to take that step. Many of us will choose to travel through the soul, and many of us will choose to travel through the space technology of equipment. It's not anymore that you have one option, there's a new craft. You have many options. Move into the deserts, start living in deserts where nobody lives, and make oasis with the new systems you have. Go back on the Keshe Foundation Oasis page. I don't know if anybody has it. I haven't seen it for years. We used to have a program called Oasis System. I don't know if you've seen it.
I've heard it. I don't remember it particularly going into it.
Yeah, we used to have an Oasis page on the Keshe Foundation, where there was a tent with the light in it and the water and everything. With the new technology, that's possible. I can't find it. I don't know. It's on the phone, which was stolen in Ghana. But we have I don't know if any of you have access to it. You can put it up. Now we can put up a tent anywhere in the universe. Desert, moon.
We'll have it ready for next week unless someone has it.
I can't remember. We were going through documents this week, and amazing enough, the original papers for confirmation of the CO2 as a plasma Raman spectroscopy, the very original papers from Ghent University, the whole folder we found. This was in the archives, and it's amazing. The first printout of confirmation of GANs as a plasma, and it's amazing. It's 30-40 page document, but all the original computer printouts, infrared printouts, they're all in there. And one day it'll be as part of the archives as a new technological development. Don't worry about planet Earth. It's resilient and it's blue and it's beautiful and it stays that way. It's just that the suffering in it will reduce. But it's a man who can choose to travel with the soul of the equipment.
Mr. Keshe, I've sent you the Oasis system.
Can you? Yep, I've lost this one. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Trustee Bono is the Keshe's mainframe computer.
Thank you very much. You can. I try to share it if it comes up. Yep. This is the original Oasis system, Keshe technology when we used to be. Creating a proper place of comfort and dignity for everyone. And with the new knowledge, you can build this anywhere in the universe, let alone on this planet.
Is what the Israelites had traveling through the wilderness any sort of similarity to the system? Can we have a sound check from someone, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I was busy trying to save this picture. We have it somewhere, but now it's nice to be there. In a way, yes, but it was in knowledge. Understanding. People have survived in deserts and in cold conditions for thousands of years. Once you know how to live, how to survive it, it's irrelevant where you are, because you know the terrain, you know to understand. I was telling some knowledge seekers, not very recently, but a few months ago, I remember being on an oasis for years in a desert. It's so vivid, it's so clear. There was one tree and one water well. Never moved from it. I just knew it's time I have to be there. And you can survive. people survive in North Pole. Eskimos live in the most harshest way, but they live.
Mr. Keshe, if you're still there, can these still be made again, or have you stopped making them?
We never made it. This is a concept, but
Oh, wow.
the reality of this was built in China in a space reactor.
I would definitely want to go into something like this.
This is the, what you call, we have achieved plasma energy generation and sustaining, and a new factory in Iran will go into power generation, a new cycle, and then it can be done. Once you create the first generation of energy, creating water and the rest is nothing.
Man.
Purification, and secondly, interaction of plasmatic fields. If you go through fire, you have to go through boiling and everything. If you go through energy production through plasma, you don't need to heat up a room. You create a field interaction that you feel warm within.
This is beautiful.
The new air enhancement units, which have been sold, are part of the structure of this work. They are developed to create this condition. We would like to know how people feel with it, how they interact with it. How do they feel in the house? Do they feel more hungry? They feel satisfied? The food reduction, the energy reduction. The new air enhancement unit has been deliberately made for part of the development of the space technology.
So, Mr. Keshe, if we have people visiting from the from outside, let's say from the universe, they probably wouldn't need anything maybe like we do. They would, but maybe they would want something like that.
That again, as I said, depends how they travel. They travel in a dimension of physicality, or they are different dimensions, different knowledge and technologies. We have opened a small gap in the knowledge of the life in the universe. There are many, many different ways to feed the man, or to sustain the energy of the soul of the man.
So they're independent, really.
Yep.
Okay.
You see many people who travel from deep space, they carry small objects with them. Very irrelevant objects. Very much, we call it maybe like a ring, maybe like a piece of something attached to it. These are the energy resources. This is where they get everything from.
Wow. Wow, thanks for that. I love this.
Yeah, but we introduced this in a very slight way a few years ago, but it got hijacked and all sorts of things with it, and I withdrew it. But in the near future, we will release these kind of technologies in the form of cups, because it's the easiest way.
A small cup.
Yep.
Wow. Wow, thanks.
Yeah, we see in the work of the new cups we released Now we're getting responses back, how it works, how people make mistakes, and how they misuse it, or they misread it, or the lack of communication between us and them. And we see the result. We see the result. We see the effectiveness of them. And with the factory in China opening up in the next 6 months or so, then we increase these kind of line of productions. Anyway, it's getting very late for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time and your knowledge shared today.
Thank you very much
Thank
indeed
you.
for your time. Thank you.
Mr. Keshe, I've got a suggestion for you. You mentioned we only have to drink 30 cc's from those cups a day. You could
3
attach,
times a day.
pardon?
3
3 times a day, yeah. But the way to measure it would be with the whiskey measurer. The 1 ounce
You're
cup.
drinking, right?
You
What
want
are
a
we gonna
shot.
do to the? What are we gonna do to the Muslim guy in Mecca who doesn't have a whiskey measure?
Well, but that means he ties it to the whiskey, but he can tie it to somebody else.
Good measure. Good measure. It's a 2 mouthful. But something in that region.
2 sips, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank
See
you.
you next
Thank
week.
you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Okay,
Thank you,
it's,
Mr. Keshe.
yes, it's 12:30 in Europe, and I'm sure a lot of the
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
knowledge seekers are ready to retire. So a beautiful session today. Thank you, Alex, all the knowledge seekers, everyone who shared knowledge. I'll play something from the universal community, and I will play the final disclaimer, and then the meeting will end. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here and participating today.
Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.